Good afternoon and happy Monday. I hope you are having a great start to your week so far. Today, I want to look at yet another way that the retirement plan of a Christian might differ than the secular world. And today we are going to be taking a look at inheritance. Faith-driven retirement plans seem to differ than secular plans, and that we have a God-ordained objective of leaving something behind to our kids. And I want to take a look at a Bible verse that we commonly reference when we have this conversation. And it says, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children." This was written by the wisest man to ever live, next to Jesus, about 3,000 years ago. What did he mean? What did Solomon mean when he said, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children"? Well, leaving an inheritance probably looked something like leaving some land and livestock and maybe equipment. And if you did not have these things passed down to you, now what? What happens to you? Well, you might become homeless, maybe an indentured servant to somebody else, but you are now much more vulnerable than you were. And not only that, but leaving the land to their children appears to be the Israelites' responsibility. Ever since God's covenant with Abraham, land is a very sacred subject, right? You are passing down the blessings of that original covenant. And there's a lot of text spent talking about who gets what when it comes to the land. The land is a very particular subject. There are even laws in the law, to get the land back to each original family in that year of Jubilee, right? So when Solomon is saying a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, what is he saying? What is he actually leaving? Well, I would say that he is leaving behind a participation in God's covenant to his own children in a way that they will also pass it down to their children. And so it can't just be talking about stuff, because you can't make your kids give it to their kids, right? I think it's talking about something much, much more than that. What we are leaving behind is our worldview. As Michael Scott would say, if I die, I want my son to know the dealio of life. And we leave behind a participation in our relationship with our Creator. And we leave behind the tools to successfully move through this life. I have to think that there has never been an easier time in history to leave money to our heirs and yet leave them nothing else than that. We are more geographically spread out. We're more individualized. We don't even always know the people we are inheriting from, or at least not very well. And inheriting money alone can be so detrimental that nearly every culture has some version of the concept of shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves. Have you ever heard that phrase? Shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. This is a way of saying that wealth earned by first generation is usually gone by the 3rd generation. Shirt sleeves implying hard labor, humble beginnings, this idea of rolling up your shirt sleeves and getting to work, building some wealth. That is the first generation. The second generation enjoys the wealth and maybe even maintains it. They saw their parents work really hard for it. They aren't working quite as hard to maintain it, but they at least got to see it being built. And that third generation, they really have no working memory of how the wealth got there. It's just always been there. And because they don't know what it's worth, they squander it and end up back at the beginning, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves. And it seems like every culture has their own way of saying this. In Japan, they say rice paddies to rice paddies. And in Mexico, they say the grandfather a warehouseman, the son a gentleman, the grandson a beggar. It is no doubt that this is a universal truth. And like all great truths, it is just a commentary of Scripture. I've read a couple books on the idea of inheritance and how to do it well, and I usually do not get all the way through these books because everybody seems to be saying the same things. It is oftentimes more of a detriment to leave a financial inheritance behind than a benefit. And it looks like the rest of the verse, by the way, alludes to that idea, that wealth gained easily tends to end up in the hands of other people. We usually just look at the first half of this verse. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. But might it be that this verse that we're using to tell each other to leave money behind to our kids could actually be teaching the exact opposite of that? Maybe in some situations, that would be the most loving thing to do, is not leave anything behind. Okay. I don't think this verse is saying that we can't leave money behind to our kids. But let's look at this verse one more time. It says a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. I do not think this is saying that a good man leaves money for his kids and grandkids. I think that it is saying a good man lives in such a way that their life continues to bear fruit for generations after they pass. That a good man blesses his family in far more ways than possessions. Now, if your children are actively bearing fruit, you are confident in their stewardship, and you want to leave something to them, then fine. I don't see an issue with that. I just think it's important to be clear on this verse and what exactly it is we're leaving behind when we bring it up in the context of inheritance. Another aspect of this inheritance that I think is important to note is that at the time, it was still being distributed while the parents were alive. It was something that they administered and were still around to see it. And this inheritance was also used to continue taking care of those parents. Something I sometimes wonder if we would benefit from getting back to today. But maybe that's a conversation for another time. So, will I leave a monetary inheritance to my own kids? I don't know. I assume they will get any property that we leave behind to do whatever they want with. That seems to be what happens a lot of the time. But while I hope to raise children who have a higher understanding of this world than I do, and who will be much better at distributing resources than I am, I don't have any intentional plans to leave assets behind to them beyond, physical property. Okay, so what are we leaving behind? On a daily basis, in our interactions with our families, what are we leaving behind? What are we passing on to them? And will that still be there after we are gone? That is all I have today. I hope you have a great Monday afternoon, and I will see you next time.